Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Lieutenant Peter Sims. We're honoured to acknowledge Mr James W. Bill Oxford, National Commander, the American Legion, and the accompanying delegation. We warmly welcome Israel Defence Ministry representatives and also the representatives of the Australian-Israel Defence Industry Joint Working Group, who are also attending this evening's ceremony. Mr John King, President of the Return and Services League of Australia, ACT branch. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From Western Australia, Manjimup Senior High School. From New South Wales, St Joseph's School, Kempsey. And from South Australia, Cleve Area School, Secondary Department. Australia's Federation Guard is a tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier within the Hall of Memory. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Catapult party, attention! Catapult party, present arms.
Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private John Leo McAviney. John Leo McAviney was born on the 24th of May 1906 in Sydney, the son of Thomas and Bridget McAviney. Known as Jack to his family and friends, he later went to school at St Stanislaus College in the town of Bathurst, where his father worked as an official at the jail. He later moved back to Sydney, and in 1927 he married Eva Day in Waverley. The couple had one child together, Judith. McAviney worked in a number of jobs. In 1933 he was working as a clerk at the Zigzag Brewery in Lithgow, west of the Blue Mountains. In 1934, the year his daughter was born, he was working as a clerk in Burwood in Sydney, and at the time of his enlistment was living with his young family on Harwood Island, on the Clarence River, north of Coffs Harbour, on the New South Wales coast. There he worked in a local sugar mill, assisted his father-in-law in bricklaying, and worked as a motor mechanic and driver. Not long after the Second World War began, McAviney made the journey south to Sydney. He enlisted in Paddington on the 3rd of January, was taken on strength of the 2nd 3rd Battalion at Ingleburn on the 5th, and sailed from Sydney Harbour on the 10th. He had been in the military for only 1 week and was sailing with the first convoy of Australian troops to be sent for overseas service in the war. McAviney disembarked in Egypt on the 14th of February 1940 and soon moved with the rest of his unit to train at a camp near Gaza. With the exception of a short period of service in a security detachment in Jerusalem, McAviney remained at this training base for nearly 8 months, working as a transport driver. In September, he moved with his unit to Allied camps and bases in Egypt in preparation to join the fighting against Italian forces, who had declared war against Britain and France in June and were attacking along the border between Egypt and Libya. In early October, while at the British camp at Amaria, the 2nd 3rd Battalion saw their first fighting during an enemy air raid. In December, they transferred to the forward Allied defences at Bagush, to the west of Alexandria and the Egyptian coast, and by the 18th of December were based at El Saloum, near the Libyan-Egyptian border. On the 22nd of December, while stationed about 5 kilometres from the Italian line near Bardia, the troops of the 2nd 3rd Infantry Battalion came under attack from a squadron of 22 low-flying Italian bombers. Several men were wounded, and 3, including McAviney, were killed, likely when an Italian bomb damaged the 2nd 3rd Battalion's regimental aid post truck. John McAviney was 36 years old, survived by his grieving wife and young daughter. Today his remains lie in the Knightsbridge War Cemetery in Libya, where over 3,600 casualties of the Second World War are buried and commemorated. His gravestone, far from home, simply reads, "Rest in peace." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Leo McAviney, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the downing of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Counterpart party, present arms.
lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen and students, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.